speaking on your granny, you talked about how your granny was your first example of love, and using that as an example, were you intentional, or how did you use that example of love moving forward, especially when you have kids? So like.
Well, you being my eldest kid, right? You being my oldest, and I had a purpose for having you. At the time, I didn't have anything else, and I knew my granny had instilled me in love. Like I told you, she taught me a lot of things that I'll never lose. But I had you because I wanted somebody to love me, and I wanted to put my love on someone that would never be tarnished, that never would, and it would be unconditional. And so when I became pregnant with you, and I had so many people coming against me because I was 20 years old, I wasn't married. I had people telling me, oh no, you should have an abortion, you shouldn't do this, you do this. And I was so against it, I was heartbroken. And I remember sitting up one night, and I was talking to God, and I said, God, I'm gonna have him because this will be the only person who will ever love me. Yeah. And that's why I had you.
Oh, I gotta give you a hug. Thank you. I wouldn't be here. So thank you. I love you too, bro. I do.
No, don't make me cry.
I do.
Come here, like, mess up my makeup. I'm a pumpkin this time.
And how do you feel? And I think our stories relate in a lot of ways because, like for example, you say you raised by your granny because of life situations, but then my story ends up in the same way, and then honestly, kind of Noah in the same kind of way, like it's in the same way, like
it's a generational
pattern. Yeah. And I think it's powerful that, in a way, because you couldn't receive love at that time when you were younger from the people who were supposed to give it to you, that someone was there and put in place for you to feel that, because that's necessary for your growth. And clearly it works because we're down the line here and here you are. So that's good.
I do know that I know Grandma had to raise you, and Grandma and Granddad, and I always knew where you was at. I was always there. I was always present, coming at your school, doing everything. But it was a point in my life that was so hard, that I was so broken. It was when I was going through my divorce, and I was broken. I ended up in the hospital. I thought I was having a heart attack. And you was just supposed to be in there for a brief moment. You weren't supposed to be in there that long. Once you got there, they wouldn't let me have you back. Right. And that made me feel like I was incomplete, because here's my son, and in my daughters as well, and I felt like half of me had been destroyed. You know what I mean? And so the reason why, man, being around you, Deja, Dee, being around my daughters have been one of the best things that I am blessed. Even through the good time and bad, the wars, the pranks, and now looking at Noah being my first grandkid, that has, I can see the extent. Yeah. But nothing has been intentionally lost. Right. I think that God uses certain things to help. You had to have Grandma and Granddaddy because that's how you got your musical.
Yeah, that is. It literally.
I can't sing.
You can. She can sing. She just hold a note part. She can hold a note. Don't believe her.
But I think, he used what would have been used for negative to make it a positive. And so they influence your music, and they influence you learning techniques that I could never have taught you. I could have taught you the streets, right? But they taught you that, and you was actually able to see a husband and wife together.
I was. And honestly, seeing, and like you said, you could have taught me the streets. In a way, not really teaching me the streets, but I saw the things, but you always kept me like away. Like there was always a border away from the streets, but I got to witness a lot of things, but I was never a part of it. And I appreciate that, because even though I wasn't a part of it, I'm appreciative that I got to actually see it, because I was allowed to grow up in the hood and actually like, and know everybody around me, but never actually have to be included in the things that were going on. So I'm still appreciative of that. And I'm definitely appreciative of Grandma and Grandpa for actually the music thing, 'cause like you said, like, it wouldn't have happened. If the story didn't happen the way it happened, we wouldn't be where we are now.
And that's how everybody has a story. Yeah. Everybody has a story. Man.
In your book, Suddenly, that you wrote recently, that came out not too long ago, you can check it out on Amazon, you talk about relationships and love in your first marriage. And to my sister's father, Deja and Deidre's father, I want to know how that relationship affected your perspective of love. It could be relational, even that, because I know that time in your life and that era of your life had an impact on you, and you took something, you had to take something from that to move forward with. What did you take from those lessons that you learned from that marriage into your future?
Well, I learned what I wasn't gonna take. I know I'm not taking that. I know that you do that, I'm going. I know, you know, him and I are friends. Like, we're really good friends. When he have a situation, he'll call me. When his mom just died last year, he called, and I talked to him, you know, we talked. When he's going through something, we're friends. But I have never went to a place of hate. I've never been a hateful person. And in that relationship, I went to hate because I hurt. I had a baby. I was by myself. But that impacted me I never thought I was gonna be remarried. I actually gave up on love. I've started becoming bitter. Cause how could somebody say they love you and do this to you? You know what I mean? And then you have kids. And so when I married, I thought it was for forever. Right? But then in hindsight, I see before I knew it fell apart, it had fell apart.
You saw now, looking back, where that fell apart.
Where it fell apart, I could see right when, and I knew it at the moment when it was falling apart. It was unraveling. I knew it. I could tell you the moment, the date, where I knew it was unraveling. What I was doing, I was sitting in the house pregnant with Deja, and I knew it was unraveling.
And why did you? In that moment, you recognized?
I recognized it because he stayed out all night. I knew it, and I listened to the excuses. And I took them in. And so where I'm at now, I have learned to get to know the person. So when I met Sean, my husband now, I watched him and listened. And I intently listened to find who he was. Because if you see, a lot of times we get in relationships and we don't know the person. Oh, they like me, and then you get in this relationship, and down the road you find out they're horrible people. They're there to use you, abuse you, and break you. But if you just watch and you'll see the telltale signs. You'll see it, and you can't make a person change. They have to want to do it. You just might not be the person that motivates them to make the change. You understand?
That's true.
That's what I learned. I learned some hard lessons, hard knocks. I learned some hard lessons.
So with all this discussion that we're talking about love, I want to know, like, I guess first, what is your definition of self-love? What does that look like? Where did you get that from? Like, what are the elements that you feel like you learned in order to instill self-love in yourself, you know?
Okay, so with self-love, you have to know who you are. You have to have your identity. And I think a lot of times we don't know our identity. We don't know who we are. Okay, as a child, you who I say you are, right? You go to college, you who your friends say you are. You never learn who you are. Then you jump in a relationship, you become who that person wants you to be. So how do you love yourself? Because you don't know yourself. But when you take a few moments of your time, just a few, you don't need long, and you're not in a relationship, you learn you. You learn what you like, what you don't like. You learn about your features and your face. You learn your movements. You learn about you. Because you can't love somebody you don't know, right? So self-love is coming when you know you. You have to know your strengths, your weaknesses. You know, when we do a job application, they tell you what's your strength, what's your weaknesses. A lot of people make it up because they don't know. They really don't know their strengths and weaknesses. So when you're talking about self-love, it encompasses all of you, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
How did you get to the point where you learned all that? Because that's not something you just learned day one. Day one, that kind of knowledge and that kind of understanding of self and self-love doesn't come. So what led you to that journey of understanding that?
Age. You know, I grew up with low self-esteem, being a dark-skinned girl in our times. And I hate hearing people say, oh, you're a pretty black girl. No, I'm brown. If you look at the black crayon, we don't match, right? And so I had to learn, you know, you have the kinky hair, you have all this stuff. People put you down. And so some kind of way, and I think we were talking as we were walking, I said, this is what somebody was comparing me to. So that was diminishing my esteem. But when I realized that I am the head and not the tail. Come on. When I realized I'm made out of his image, and that I walk not by what man think of me, but what he think of me, oh, baby, I'm the catch me out. I am the bomb.com. You hear me? Can't take that from me. And so it took age. It took age. It took that everybody's going to put their reflection on who they think you should be and what you should be. In the day's time, you ever put on shoes that's too tight? It's painful.
Yeah.
And so that's what happens when you're walking around in somebody else's image. What about you? I'm seeing that you're a confident level. You said that not having presence and love when you was younger, and it affected you as you were coming up. So how did you, where you at, first, where you're at with self-love? Second, how did you discover self-love?
Where I'm at with self-love, in the last couple of years, I've been able to find my footing in it a little bit more. And for me, it's been able to be okay with being by myself. I think I always was dependent on other people to be around and to fulfill me and to validate me. And that was something that I always looked for. But now I find myself, sometimes I'll go to a restaurant by myself. I'll go to the movies by myself. I'll spend time by myself because I genuinely like spending time by myself. I don't cause problems for myself. I don't start drama with myself. I don't lie to myself. So I think that was the starting route for me, being able to find a place where I can be okay with just being with me. And it works out, and there's no problem. And where I currently am, I mean, what I believe self-love is just that, being okay with who you are and all that comes with you, and being able to turn it and flip it and make it into something great. Like, even if some things you may not like about yourself, everybody has something they don't like about themselves. Being able to flip it and find something positive, even though I'm this way, or this about me, or I have this attribute or this trait, or my nose, my eyes, whatever it is, but making it into a positive. And that's what I'm learning to do. Make things that I see as a negative into a positive. Because some people don't see it like that, like at all. Some people don't see the things that you fight in yourself. They don't see that as a negative. They don't even see the war that you have with yourself. So sometimes you just have to check yourself and make sure that you're like, I'm good. Like, am I living? I'm breathing. I'm surviving. I love myself. I take care of myself. I'm willing to go the long haul for myself, the whole journey. So that's what self-love is to me. That's why I'm learning. And it's still a journey, and it's a process every day. But I'm happy to say that I'm on the right side of the journey now. Before, when you're younger, like you say, you don't know who you are. Your friends are telling you who you are when you're in school, all that. Like, your parents are telling you that when you're younger, and then when you get in a relationship, your significant other's telling you who you are. And I think that was a very important statement, because that's very true. And when you finally sit in the silence with yourself, you finally find out who you are. And I've done that, a lot of that, enough to know I like me, and I like who I am, and I'm willing to go the long haul with myself through this whole journey of life. So.
That is true. That's good. That's good. That's a good one. Yeah, I like that.
Oh, I'm not a product of love. Never came this